Sean Bergman of E-ville Geckos here. Today we're going to be doing another redo video about how I do and set up gecko tubs. This is going to be a tub exclusive video. We're going to cover adult males, females, and babies. But there will be a tank video here shortly. It's been a while since I've set up a terrarium or a tank. But we're going to cover that in a separate video just so I can stay on track with this one. Alrighty. So tub setups are really basic, and they're not very hard to maintain. That's why a lot of people like to use rack systems and stuff like that. It's perfectly fine to keep your gecko in a rack system, and let me explain why. Leopard geckos do not need UVB or UV lights. They might have a little bit of a benefit to it, but it's not necessary for them. So in a lot of ways, I feel like having a tub setup is a lot healthier for a leopard gecko. It allows for less things to happen, a lot less accidents to happen, and I've noticed that leopard gecko health overall seems to do better in a tub setup with just belly heat or back heat. However, so let's hop right into it. We're gonna cover, like I said, adult males, females, and babies today, and most of these tubs are all going to be the same. With a few differences. Now I will say for my adult males and my adult females that it's a 15 quart tub, so that's not a very big space, and I would only recommend doing about one gecko per 15 quart tub. Now for bigger setups, we'll cover that later in another video, but right now let's just stick to smaller setups with tubs. And so we're going to cover our adult males first. This is actually a female G project right here. She's one of my favorite ones. She's got a really killer attitude and she's spunky. And I just managed to clean everybody out and all that, so everyone's taken care of and tubs look nice and clean, so they're not dirty, which would be a big eyesore on the camera. So we're just going to hop right into our adult male setup. So first off, let's talk about substrate. Now for my adult males and my adult females, I don't use any substrate whatsoever, and I just use plastic. I find it's a little bit easier to clean just plastic rather than having to deal with like nasty paper towels that are like stuck to the floor really bad and really gross, and so I just find it's a little bit easier just to clean the plastic. I find it's a little bit healthier for the leopard gecko, and it causes less accidents too. Like if your feeders get out and they get underneath that paper towel when it's fresh and the paper towel starts moving around, your leopard gecko might eat it and ingest it, and hopefully it passes, but maybe it doesn't, So for the safe side, I like to have everything. I like it for it to be as safe as possible for my geckos, so it's a really basic setup, and it's kept them pretty healthy. I've never really had to take a leopard gecko to a vet for impaction or anything like that. I feel as long as you keep a healthy environment, a sterile environment, or as clean as possible of an environment, you won't have these problems like parasites and stuff like that. So we're going to hop right into it. Like I said, we don't use any substrate, and for heating we use belly heat. Now you can use back heat too, it doesn't really matter as long as the back here reaches around 90 degrees for the leopard gecko to lay on and digest its food properly. Like I said, leopard geckos don't need UV light or UVB light, or UVB bulbs, my bad. Yeah, it's one perk about leopard geckos. You don't need those expensive light bulbs. So as long as the heat's around 90 degrees up here, and you maybe the lower 80s over here, or upper 80s, it really doesn't matter. It doesn't have to be spot on either. It's not like you have to have it perfectly at 90 degrees all the time. A little bit of fluctuation is not going to be a big deal when actually keeping an animal. So with that said, let's cover our hides now. For our hides, I like to just use some cheap Tupperware containers that I get, and I cut a hole out in the front of them. You can cut a hole in the actual lid itself too. I just have always cut holes in the front for some reason. I even do it with my females, and they always kick the eco earth everywhere, which is really just my bad. So that's how I've done it, and I've always done it like that. I guess I've always felt bad for them having to climb all the way up there, but as you could probably have seen, it's not very hard for them to. So I just keep a wet paper towel in here, and as you see, there's a little bit of moisture built up on the sides. Oftentimes the human hide serves a dual purpose, helping them shed, and then also they lick that water that forms on the side. Now this is freshly sprayed, so it's not really condensation, but I often see them licking the water off the sides of their humid hides, more so than I ever see them drinking out of that water bowl down there. And also, on a side note of them drinking out of things, I spray the cage about once or twice a week, depending how busy I am. And they lick the water off that too. Like I said, they tend to do that more. They tend to drink off the side of the tub and off the side of their, off the insides of their humid hide than they do actually out of that water bowl. But I've always had a thing about giving animals water bowls. Now, I don't do that with my baby tubs, and you'll see that here in a little bit. So, yeah. Now, next we have our food bowls. Now, I'd really recommend you get, if you're feeding mealworms or anything like that, crickets this is not going to do anything for, but if you're feeding mealworms or superworms, I'd really suggest that you get one of these little bowls. It's they're disposable, they're really cheap, you can get them in bulk at like TSK or Bean Farmer. I'm sure there's a few other places. If you want to, sound off in the comments below where you get these. And they have this nifty little ring. And the ring is really what makes these things so awesome. It makes it so where the mealworms or superworms or whatever you're using just can't get out of the bowl very well. I mean, sometimes they do, but it's a lot less than if you just had an open bowl. And now, since I said these things are disposable, you can throw them away. I like to clean them up. This one's been used for probably a couple weeks now. And you really can't tell that it almost looks brand new. So for that, I like to just clean them up, make them, make them useful again. I don't like just buying something and immediately throwing it away after it gets a little bit dirty. I'd rather clean it. It's a little bit cheaper and saves you a lot of money if you don't just throw them away all the time. But if you want to, you can throw them away. Like I said, I think you get these at Bean Farm or TSK. Really good buy. I recommend these to anyone who uses mealworms or superworms or anything that crawls around besides roaches. It'll work too, small nymph roaches and stuff like that. While we're on the topic of bugs that I feed, I like to feed superworms to the adults, mealworms to babies and juveniles. Like that. I like to feed just mealworms to them. And I like to feed superworms to adults. And then everybody about once a month or once or twice a month gets a helping of nymphs, of dubia roach nymphs. Now, you can feed anything like hornworms, pinky mice. I would say don't go overboard on it. They probably only need to eat those every once in a while. If you're going to have that as a staple, I'd recommend maybe not feeding them as often. Leopard geckos don't need to eat a ton like some people think. They don't need to be fed every day or every other day. I feed all mine once a week, a large amount, and that's good for them. Now, the reason you're not seeing mealworms in the bowls right now is because I'm actually getting mealworms tomorrow or the next day from Rainbow Mealworms. If you haven't bought from Rainbow Mealworms before, I'd really suggest it, especially if you're doing things on a larger scale like I am, because it'll be a lot cheaper for you to do. And alright, I thought he was going to start drinking out of the water bowl, and I was like, well, of course, right after I say I don't ever see him drink out of the water bowls, I'm going to see it. So, like I said, yeah, check out Rainbow Mealworms. You get really good deals on them, so shout out to them. And that's where I get all my feeders at. So, I think that pretty much covers leopard gecko, adult male tubs for leopard geckos. Like I said, really basic. The only thing that's really going to differ here in adult females is the humid hide. Now, the humid hide serves a double purpose. I'm not going to cover the basic stuff like we covered for the males, like temperatures and substrate, because it's the same for them. Now, with the females, the humid hide serves a dual purpose. And it serves a dual purpose for the males, too, where they can lick the water off the sides and, helps get their shed off. It's really important to have a humid hide, guys. If you don't have one in your leopard gecko tubs, you should probably get one in there. But for females, it serves more purposes than just that. So it does build up water and helps them get off shed, and they can lick off the water off the sides and whatnot. But also, I use cocoa fiber. That's what this is. This gross looking stuff here. That's what this is, and you can see. And this is actually what they'll lay their eggs in, are females. This female was breeding this season, and she's perking up really nice. She's a good breeder. and I think we hatched her out last year, and she's already producing really good clutches, so she's definitely one that's going to stay around. And she's just a real nice animal. In general, she's a G Project Trumper Albino, head eclipse, and she is a white and yellow, and she has some wicked carrot tail, which you don't see all the time on white and yellow animals. So that's that, and they'll be laying their eggs in there. I like to keep that wet all the time, as well as with the males and their humid hide and their paper towel. You should really keep, your humid hides always moist at least. Alright, so there's that, and then we have our food bowl and our water bowl. Oh, let me touch base on water bowls. I forgot to do that. Water bowls here. Yes, this is a heart-shaped water bowl. All the girls get heart-shaped ones because we have so many, and we actually have various choices. We have the regular circle. We've got another one that's a circle. Then we got hearts and stars, and females usually get hearts and stars. For water bowls, I get these at the Dollar Tree. Now, they're about $1 for two, and that might sound expensive to you if you really think about it, and if you're trying to buy for a large setup. But I've accumulated them over the years, and I have probably thousands right now. And you might be asking, why is it not disposable like the food bowl? Well, I don't like just throwing stuff away, like I said. So once a month I come in through. Well, once a week I come through and I clean the water bowl, and then once a month I steam clean the water bowl, and then once a year I take the water bowl out and I boil it in a big pot with a bunch of other bowls, and in that way, I save money, and I don't actually, I'm not wasting anything, and I just like to have a permanent thing in there for water bowls. So like I said, there's no substrate, and same food bowl, everything's the same pretty much except the hide. Now I would recommend probably to cut a hole here. I've always put holes here because when they're big and grabbing, I feel bad if they gotta climb up there. I know if I had two massive eggs inside my body, I would definitely want to not have to. I'd really hate to take a detour to the top floor, just go right through the front door. So that's just my personal preference. It will be a little bit messy, but it's also a good indicator when you have eggs, because all this eco earth will be right out here usually, and you'll pretty much know when you need to look for eggs. So there's that, and there's our female. Let's get a close up of her real quick so you can say goodbye to her. Alright, so next on we have our baby tubs. Our baby tubs are a lot different for a couple reasons. As you can see, there's no water bowl in here, and there is no really a hide. It's just this with a wet paper towel underneath it. So here's our baby that you can see. This is another white and yellow. Actually hatched out with eclipse eyes, and then the eclipse eyes faded out. So I'm just calling it a possible head eclipse right now. I'm not sure. It could just be something that's a little bit different. I mean, you could call it Abenesian, but with me, I just kind of like to call things how they look. After they get so large, and that's just how I do it. Now with babies, I like to keep it a little bit more humid in here with the paper towel, and I also spray the sides of the tub about once a week or twice a week. I like to keep it a little bit more humid in here, just to, in case there's shedding problems. I noticed that when they're younger, they tend to have more of an issue shedding than they do when they're older. And there's no water bowl in here because this thing's usually got condensation all over it. And there's just a food bowl, and then this little bowl. Now some people use Chinese food take-home containers. I know another YouTuber that's using that, but I just like these little bowls. I just cut them out in mass and then pop them right in, and then they're fresh to go, and they're disposable. And if they get too dirty, I do just throw those away because it's kind of hard to clean them because they're so flimsy. But these things work great for your little humid hide, and it's basically baby tubs. These are I think, let me look here, let's flip this around. These are Sterlite 6-quart tubs. So they're a lot smaller than the other tubs than the 15 quarts, but when it comes to babies, I find that the smaller is better. When they get to be large, when they come out and you try to raise them in larger tubs, you tend to have more issues. So I like to just stick to small tubs, and I only ever will put two small hatchlings together, and then when they get a bit older, I'll separate them out so that we don't have any issues there. But when they're younger, two can fit in a little 6-quart tub fine. This one's starting to get a little bit too big for it, and I think it might end up being one of my holdbacks. So I'm gonna probably move her into an adult tub here soon. But until then, she's gonna hang out in here. So that's basically tub setups, guys. If there's any for babies, I don't. Oh, by the way, before I do my outro, when it comes to feeding babies, sometimes you have a little bit of a hard time with it, and just to touch base on how to take care of that. Maybe try cutting the heads, especially if you're having a hard time for your leopard gecko or baby eating in general. Try cutting off the head off like a mealworm or a roach and squeezing out some of the goo. And I know it sounds really gross, and then rubbing it to their lips. Hopefully they'll start licking their lips, and they'll eat the mealworm or roach or whatever you're trying to feed them. And that's usually how, if I have a hard time, I get them started like that. So that's basically it on leopard geckos. Sound off in the comments if I missed something. It's a good chance I have. I'm using an iPhone right now, and I have very, very, very minimal editing software. Basically, all I can do is edit a couple clips together, and that's it. So if I missed something, it's a good chance that I have, possibly. Sound off in the comments if you caught me, and then we'll add it into the next video, and that'll be about it. So this is E-ville Geckos. Like me on Facebook. My page will be linked below in the description, and along with my personal profile. And yeah, everyone have a good day. I'm gonna sit here and enjoy these little animals for a little bit longer, and then I'm gonna get this video up for everyone to watch. I hope you found this helpful. If you found this helpful, hit like. I really appreciate it. Lets me know that I did a good job on this video. And subscribe for even more. As I said, we will be doing a tank video here soon, how to set up your terrariums in a way that I would do. Like I said, this whole entire video is how I do things. If you do things differently, feel free to do them differently. But this is how I'll do them, and probably continue to do them until I think of a better way to do it. So everybody, have a wonderful day. E-ville Geckos signing out. Like I said, link descriptions are in the below. So, like me on Facebook. Follow me on my personal profile. And that'll be it. Y'all have a good day.